Well, making young Latinos successful is actually a very interesting thing. As I turn to Henry now and bring you into the conversation, I make the case that everybody, regardless of your motivation, needs to be concerned about the good success of the Latino community because it's going to be the majority of the Valley. And as the Valley is growing faster than the coast, if the Valley's successful, California has a chance to be successful too. Well, you've seen this from your perspective of 8 years now on the Fresno City Council going back to 2002 and recognizing that the Latino population is diverse. Are there certain issues that are more important among Latino constituents than other ethnic groups?
Sure. I mean, I represent a very diverse district. In fact, the district starts at Tulare, where Roosevelt High School and ends at Bullard, where St. Anthony's is. So I represent some of the wealthiest neighborhoods and some of the poorest in our city. And what I find in the poorer parts of our district is that the two issues of concern are education and economics. What we're finding is, especially with the lack of water on the west side, is that as Latinos move from the west side into urban Fresno, we're finding 3 or 4 families in a 2-bedroom house, oftentimes in the district that I represent. So those are some of the challenges and the issues that we're facing every day as a city.
You know, when the Great Valley Center started doing a annual survey, it's been more than 10 years ago, nobody was really surveying the Central Valley, and they certainly weren't breaking it down by ethnic groups or even by sectors of the Valley. Well, now, when surveys are done by the Public Policy Institute of California or other pollsters, they certainly do that. And one thing I've noticed is when you ask Hispanic people in these surveys about what's important to them, education really is a big, big issue.
Absolutely, because most of our families immigrated to this country, just like everybody's family at one point immigrated to this country, with very little, especially in education. I mean, my grandfather came to this country during World War II as a bracero with an 8th grade education. So for him, ingraining the importance of education, whether it was career, tech, or college, was very important. That has transcended down to the generation. So now that my wife and I expect our first daughter on the way, we're going to be pressing the same message to her as well as we're doing to the entire community.
Well, it's very interesting. You know, the braceros came to help out during World War II and get the crops in, and they worked on waterworks and the railroads. That group of people, when they were able to reunite with their families and decided they wanted to make their future here in California, that's become the solidness of the Mexican-American community. And now these are grandparents, of course, and even great-grandparents. But it's wonderful to see this progression of the generations, and the success that you can point to now in the Hispanic community goes right back to those pioneers who took a risk on coming here during the war and helping the United States out with those strong arms. That's what braceros means.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe that every generation has this obligation to make sure that we are continuing to move down that path of progress for the next generation.
Well, let's talk about the other big issue, and that is how do you make a decent living? So economic development is another thing that's very important to the Hispanic community. How do you think that's going?
Well, it's tough. It's tough for everybody right now. You know, when you see the lack of water out on the west side, and you've seen many of our towns drying up where over 90% of the population is Latino, things are very tough. So I think, a couple of things need to happen. I mean, number one, we need a stable source of water, not just for our farms, but for our cities as well, so we can continue to grow. But we really need to focus on diversifying our economic base so we have more opportunities for people so that when one industry is in decline, there are others that can pick up the slack.
Yeah, let's diversify. Agriculture is wonderful, but we've got to do more than that and have some more robust economic sectors. And Sarah, as you're working through the California Endowment on Arvin and Lamont, Fresno, looking at Planada and Merced, and your colleague working in South Sacramento, most of the Hispanics, when you look at their average wage, they're actually making less than the population on the whole. So poverty must be a part of these communities that you're working in.
Poverty is a huge, huge issue throughout the Central Valley, but obviously in particular in the communities that we have identified to really go deep and to work in. And the poverty issue has to go along with not only the economic question of how we bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots, but also how we lift people out of that poverty and how we lift our economy out of that poverty structure. Education, obviously, is going to be crucial to that. In addition to that, it's also knowledge, having people understand their environment, their surroundings. And you know, when I look at the Latino community, it's I did better than my parents' generation, my parents did better than their parents' generation. We need to keep that track moving forward. It has become more difficult as we've grown because our younger people are dropping out at a higher rate of percentage, and they're going to prison at a higher rate. So we obviously, those of us in the generations following, have a lot of work to do, and it's on us to make sure that we do that.
Well, let's put a spotlight on this issue by turning to Stacy Shepard of the Great Valley Center and John Hernandez, the Executive Director of the Central California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Thanks, David, and John, welcome to the show. You are the director of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Tell us, what role does the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce play in a community?
Well, the Central California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has been in existence since 1983. And what we do is we actually build bridges. We're bridge builders. We help people network. We also help people do business to business. In addition to that, we build bridges from the Hispanic community to the general market, in many cases, because many Hispanic-owned businesses want to reach the general market. In addition to that, many of the general market businesses want to reach the Hispanic market. So we actually play a role there by setting the table and doing various events that help promote commerce and business here in the Valley. In addition to that, we also promote travel and tourism. It's another thing we do too.
So tell us a little bit about the Hispanic market. It's obviously a growing market. What are some of the unique characteristics of the Hispanic community that businesses are trying to tune into?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a big number that people are tuning into. In 2009, the local Hispanic buying power here in and around Fresno and the Valley is roughly $13 billion. That's scheduled to grow in the next 10 years, by the year 2019, that's expected to grow to $22.2 billion. So that's a big number that many folks are looking at, and how to access that market. In addition to that, how to get those customers, because you'll find out if you're in business, many Hispanic people tend to be very loyal. They be a loyal customer base, whether it's Pepsi or Coke or Prudential or whatever that might be, AAA insurance. You'll find at the Chamber we have several partners that are accessing the market, and like I said, we think it's a great opportunity for everyone.
So what are some examples of things that businesses are doing to, strategies that they're taking to reach the Hispanic market?
Well, it all depends on what you're, I think what we're seeing at the Chamber is we're seeing a lot of businesses, a lot of large corporations, they're actually trying to look more like the Hispanic community here because of the demographics. You're looking at here in Fresno County alone, it's 48% Hispanic. So whether it be a New York Life or a Prudential or a AAA, what they're trying to do is they're trying to recruit Hispanic candidates to fill those positions. One is because of the bilingual nature in which they need to service the market. In addition to that, they know that many Hispanics tend to buy from Hispanics. So that's something that they're looking at in addition to that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, John. And now we'll go join the others for the roundtable discussion.
Looking forward to it.
There are some fascinating statistics associated with the growth of the Latino community here in the Central Valley. Nearly 90% of Latinos aged 16 to 25 believe a college education is necessary to get ahead in life. Yet less than half expect to get a college degree, according to a recent Pew Hispanic Center survey. The biggest reason cited for not getting a degree was the need to support a family, followed by limited English skills. That makes me very sad because this is the land of opportunity, and to not have people be able to reach their goals, Sarah, it's really kind of a disappointing thing. What's your response to those numbers?
You know, it's very disappointing and it's disturbing, and unfortunately those numbers and those reactions are going to the bad, not to the good, because it's becoming more expensive. It's becoming difficult for families to survive in this economy, and so kids think they have to stay home and take care of mom and dad and take care of the family. And so, as I said, dropout is a huge issue. High school dropout's a huge issue. We have to address that, though. We have to realize as Latinos that nobody's going to do it for us, nobody's going to help us. We have to help ourselves, and it's incumbent upon all of us to do that.